NBA players who won't last next year. Being a professional athlete is one of the most physically demanding careers there is. If you're on top of your game, you reap amazing benefits. But if the demand of the job gets to be too much for you, then you surely won't last. Whether it's a lack of production, injury, or something else, there are players every year that crash and burn. Some of them even find themselves out of a job. So, who are the NBA players who won't last next year? Marc Gasol. One of two brothers to play in the NBA, Marc Gasol has had a lot to be proud of. A stellar career, a championship with the Toronto Raptors, Gasol will go down in history as one of the league's great big men. But will he last much longer in the NBA? Having played 12 seasons in the NBA isn't all that much for many players. But you have to remember, big men like Gasol age differently from their smaller counterparts. All the other fellow big men Gasol has had to match up with over the years takes a toll on his body. Fighting under the hoop on offense and defense, Gasol's body has taken 12 seasons of beatings, and he's not one to shy away from a tough matchup. Gasol makes it tough for anybody on the court, no matter their size. And the game has been moving away from traditional big guys. To Gasol's credit, he has adapted quite well. His outside game has improved over the years. Gasol's happy to shoot the three ball. Granted, his feet lift about half an inch off the ground when he shoots it, but hey, it goes in 38% of the time. And he has slimmed down on multiple different occasions. More recently, he has gotten to what may be the best shape of his professional basketball career. And though less weight means Gasol runs faster, he doesn't necessarily run as fast as some of these new center hybrids entering the game. And he's only getting older. If he wants to stay in the game, he needs to do more than just slim down and speed up a bit. He needs to speed up a lot, or produce on offense. Gasol's 9.1 points per game he averaged in his first regular season with the Raptors was just fine, because they didn't need huge contributions from him on offense. He chipped in where he could, played great big man defense, and helped bring the first ever championship north of the American border. But with Kawhi Leonard now gone, Toronto needs a lot more from all of its players in order to return to that level of greatness. Gasol would need to do more. The very next season, his point average dropped, and that looks to be a trend that will continue. Can he continue to contribute on that young and fast Toronto team? Could he contribute to another team? Or is Gasol going to have a tough time sticking around in this new NBA landscape? Derrick Rose. Once referred to as the Windy City Assassin, Derrick Rose now looks more like the Motor City victim of the Windy City Assassin. Rose was once a promising young talent, Rookie of the Year for the 2008-2009 season. 2 years later, he became the youngest ever to win the MVP. Rose looked beyond the sky. Somewhere out in space was the limit for this young phenom. Then, a terrible ACL injury caused Rose to miss a massive amount of time. He came back, but clearly had lost some of his step. Still, he powered on, continuing to be productive and effective for a while. But the Chicago Derrick Rose combination wasn't meant to continue on. Rose bounced around the NBA, mainly in the northern Midwest, and after a brief stop in New York, things looked bleak. A period of time with the Timberwolves saw Rose having a bit of a resurgence. Perhaps his former cold locations weren't cold enough, and Minnesota was the trick to restoring his greatness. The former All-Star MVP had accepted a new role off the bench. Rose eventually moved on to Detroit to play a similar role, and though effective, it hasn't been looking so great. The team performed below the hopes and expectations of fans and team personnel. Rose injured his ankle just before the NBA shutdown, and with the Pistons not invited to the NBA bubble restart, it's been a while since we've seen Rose on a court. 12 years deep into the NBA, a horrific ACL injury, new ankle injury, bouncing around the league from team to team, a diminished role on a team that wasn't even competing for the playoffs, these are all bad signs for Rose. Whatever team Rose suits up for next season, he's going to be battling more than just the opponents. Rose is going to have a tough time making it through the full season. Joel Embiid. It was a long and grueling process for Philadelphia to get some amazing players like Joel Embiid on their team. Paired up with Ben Simmons, Embiid is one of two huge talents for the 76ers. There are times when the two Titans in Philadelphia thrive together. Just as often, there are times when the two have difficulty coexisting. Philly has given the world proof that having two All-Stars on your team doesn't always spell out success. The stars have to be able to play well together, and Embiid and Simmons have not proven that their games mesh well. Philly has struggled to have success that is equal to their star power. Is it the coaching? Should Brett Brown be able to get more out of these players? Well, Philly was tired of asking that question and sent Coach Brown packing. No one can ever know for sure if Philly's shortcomings were coach-based or player-based, but with a new coach coming to town, if the Sixers are struggling yet again, people are going to look at Embiid and Simmons even more critically. And here lies the challenge for Embiid, a star that, when fully engaged, can dominate. But Embiid seems to lack that ability to exert full effort night in and night out. And he and Simmons, along with their supporting cast, have styles that just don't complement each other. And to top it all off, Embiid is injury prone. This following season is going to be tough, no matter who the Sixers land for a coach. They can get the coach most clever behind a clipboard. They can get Phil Jackson's mind from the 90s implanted into a younger coach's head. It won't matter. Embiid and Simmons' game won't work together, and they will begin to feel the pressure. The injury-prone Embiid will need to exert himself more in order to prove he's not a problem, and this spells out trouble. What will be expected of him next year might just be too much. The wear and tear that will come with needing to match those expectations may prove costly. Embiid can have a bright future in the NBA, but not likely in his current situation. Something will have to change, or he'll have trouble lasting through the seasons. PJ Tucker. Professional basketball player and sneaker collector PJ Tucker is one of the toughest and hardest working players in the NBA. Tucker isn't your typical player who came out of college and started making his millions in the pros. He did get drafted by the Raptors, but had some back and forth between the Pro League and the D League. Tucker was later waived by Toronto and couldn't land a spot on an NBA team, so he flew across the pond and began his illustrious international career. Tucker played in Israel, Ukraine, Greece, Italy, and Germany. 5 years he spent abroad, working on his game, perfecting his craft, and doing his best to gain recognition at the highest level possible. He finally was signed by the Phoenix Suns for the 2012-2013 season, and carried on with his hard-nosed style of physical basketball. And these are both very important facts. Most people look at Tucker and see an impact player who just completed his 9th season. Most players who have played 9 seasons are between the ages of 27 and 30. Tucker is 35. He's not your average 9-year vet. He played so many years overseas just trying to make it to the NBA that he's put a lot more miles on his odometer. And he isn't your average player at his position either. When Phoenix first scooped up Tucker, he was a shooting guard. At 6'5", this made perfect sense. He migrated to small forward, and eventually as a power forward his last few seasons. Due to his large and sturdy 245-pound frame, this worked in a small ball league. With the Houston Rockets going super small ball lately, Tucker has been forced to the center position often, and has to match up against the bigs of the league. The bigs that can easily have a half foot on him, if not more. Tucker already plays with a relentless motor and isn't afraid to dive and crash and claw and scrape to earn his team a win. Now, he's crashing into much larger men. It's taking a toll on his body. His 35-year-old body. Tucker has always been described as durable and tenacious, as he has not only given it his all every game he plays, but he prides himself in his ability to play every game, or close to it, every season. With the Rockets' small ball experiment taking it to new heights, or lack thereof, Tucker is getting the rough end of the stick. It's only a matter of time before battling the bigs of the league catches up with him. If the second half of this most recent season is an indicator of what next season will look like for Tucker, he's not going to make it a full season. Trevor Ariza. The well-traveled Trevor Ariza has been an important piece to many different franchises. And when we say well-traveled, we mean take a look at this guy's frequent flyer miles. He's played for 9 different teams in the NBA. 2 of them he's played for on 2 separate occasions. The vet has played 16 seasons, and teams keep bringing him in because he provides excellent defense, leadership, and some decent production on offense. But how much more does Ariza have left in his tank? He most recently has played for Portland, but opted out of the NBA restart. Having had the time off due to the shutdown, and now even more time off staying out of the bubble, Ariza could easily fall out of shape. Now, he's still got loads of talent and athletic ability, but a player going into their 17th year does need to check their expectations. And if Ariza returns to Portland, or to one of the other few teams he has not yet played for, he's going to have to play smart. With so much time off, trying to jump back into the swing of things at the highest level could spell disaster for the worldly champion, and we expect someone to want what this guy has to offer. But whoever gets hold of him for this next season better control their expectations of Ariza, as it will be tough for him to jump back into yet another season, especially one in which most of his peers will already have a head start over him in terms of conditioning. Final thoughts. And that was another UpNext Sports video. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like this video, and also subscribe to the channel. Are there players who won't last through next year that we left out? Let us know with a comment, and make sure to join us for more great basketball videos.